about to help you guys as you're thinking about not only potentially growing through acquisitions, which I'll talk about here, but also transitioning your business when you're ready to retire or move on to your next thing. So, what I'm going to talk about today is really a lot around the numbers side of things. And obviously, you guys know in your business, it's a lot more than just numbers. But we're going to look at it from like a buyer standpoint and what they're looking for. But just like when you're selling your house or if you're selling something on Facebook Marketplace or anything like that, it's more than just the numbers. It's about what you've built. It's about the story behind it and really helping you showcase that. But for now, let's talk about numbers and let's talk about what buyers look for. So, um, let's hop into here. So why does this matter? So numbers matter for a variety of reasons. I mentioned growth. So understanding whether you started your business today or if you started your business 5 years ago or beyond, understanding your numbers and understanding what the levers you can pull, and that's what Silver does so great in helping you understand those and helping you grow and helping you figure out those next steps. So understanding it obviously helps grow. We also work with most of our buyers. Oh, let me introduce myself. So didn't do this. Brit Karel, co-founder of SMB.co. We basically at SMB.co, one of the partners here, which we're so excited about, especially for the integration on both sides, is helping small business owners well before they're ready to sell, prepare for a successful exit. So I think we like to compare it to Zillow, if for those in the United States that have used Zillow. So I know the value of my home on Zillow, or kind of get addicted to looking at Zillow and all the different homes around my area. And I can benchmark not only what my home is valued at, but also the homes around me or apartments or whatever it is that I'm looking on Zillow for. So we help you not only understand and benchmark where you are as a business, but then prepare for an exit when you're ready to sell. So a lot of our buyers, or a lot of our buyers are actually small business owners. There is a thing called entrepreneurship through acquisition, and it is all the rage these days, and I'll explain why. But if you're looking to grow, you can only do so much yourselves, right? So that one of the best ways to grow is through acquisitions, is by buying businesses like your business. And I'll talk about that throughout the time here. But then obviously one of the main things we help owners do is sell and prepare for sale, and then match them with qualified buyers who can continue their legacy on when they're ready to retire or whatever your exit situation is. There's lots of reasons why you would want to potentially sell your business. And then obviously run better. Why is this important? So you'll hear this in the news. You'll hear this everywhere. There's a silver tsunami. Don't necessarily love the word silver tsunami, but haven't thought of anything else that is better for that. But 10,000 boomers are turning 65 in the United States alone every single day. $10 trillion of business. These are small business owners. They are looking to change hands within this next decade. It is the largest ownership transfer in the history of the United States and globally. I know we have partners throughout the world that are dealing with the same thing. So these businesses are looking to change hands. It creates not only a massive opportunity for buyers to continue to make these local businesses last. I know we all probably know a local business in our area that didn't sell and closed down, and the community was worse for it. And that's one of our missions here, is to ensure that local businesses stay local. There's large PE groups that are coming out and gobbling up all these businesses, and sure, there might be an instance where PE makes sense. We believe that local businesses should stay local and that those legacies should stay in those local communities because they are the backbone of our local community. Why is this good news for you? So there's an influx of new buyers that are coming in that have heard that there's this transition of businesses happening. There's a lot of people disillusioned with the corporate world. They, had a job for the last 10 years or 5 years, and the corporate world's not for them, and they want to become a local business owner, and they want to help these businesses transition and so they don't die out. And so there's a big um, influx of buyers coming in. I'm under also the belief that there's a different kind of buyer that's coming up, especially when you're thinking about the younger generations and the Gen Zs that are not necessarily looking to buy a like a multi-million dollar business, because I'm not a multi-million dollar business owner here. So like how, but I think this generation, they don't want the 9 to 5. I think they want to buy a job. They want to apprentice. They want to learn your business from you and transition in the best way possible. And we're here to help support that. And figure out how to make sure that those transition. It's also good news if you're growing. So like understanding your valuation now as all of this is happening helps you prepare whether you're not looking to sell tomorrow, you're looking to sell in 10 years. Understanding what that is now gives you the ammunition to be able to move your business forward. So preparation is always key in life. What is business value? So we'll talk about business value in a lot of different ways. Like I mentioned, it's not just about the numbers, but what buyers really look at when they're looking at your business is the numbers. So making sure that you have predictable cash flow adjusted for risk, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But they look at when a buyer is coming in and looking at your business, they're looking at revenue, sure. They're looking at how your business is made up, and I'll talk about that here in a little bit, but they're really looking at their future earnings capabilities and how they can basically, well, I mean, a lot of them are looking at how they think they can make an impact on your business. Um, Whether they have experience in marketing or if they have experience in, if it's a HVAC business and they are like really are into the technical trades, they're looking at how they can maximize the business for themselves in the future. What doesn't drive price is necessarily the hard work, the dedication, your emotional connection to the business. That being said, we were able to get this house because we wrote a letter and my showed cute pictures of my 2 little girls and it was great. And so that story matters. And it will always matter, especially as we're trying to keep these local businesses local. But it's even more important now that you have your numbers in line and you work to make sure that you are preparing yourself years in advance. I'm going to pause here just a second. Any questions as I continue? Cool. Okay, so revenue versus cash flow. Like I said, revenue is important, always will be important. Top line numbers, buyers look at that. However, cash flow tells a different story, and we'll talk a little bit about why in a second. But this is just an example of a business, two businesses that have the same amount of revenue, $1 million that are coming in. One has a cash flow of 250. So cash flow is basically revenue minus all of your expenses. So all of the things that you have to put into the business and then what cash you have left over to, and you can reinvest that cash, of course, but what's the cash that you have left over? So one has 250, one has 80,000. When a buyer looks at those businesses, they're two very, very different calculations. Obviously, the one with the more cash flow could be roughly 3 times more than the business with less cash flow. And because that's really what they're buying. They're buying that cash flow so they can reinvest in the business. They can use those funds to potentially acquire their businesses. And so cash flow is a really, really important number to consider. It's what most valuations are based off of, which I'll talk about right here. So basic level valuations, especially for these small businesses, we're talking under 10, under 5, under $1 million businesses. It's a pretty simple calculation. It's cash flow times a multiple is the value of your business. Okay, so where does the multiple come from? That comes from a lot of different places. It comes from like industry standards. So basically based on your industry, what is the typical multiple that those businesses are selling for? I mentioned we like to talk about how SMB helps small business owners in relation to Zillow. The difference is there is no MLS for buying and selling small businesses. We can tell my neighbors, because it's all public information, what all of them sold for or rents for. That's public information, but buying and selling small businesses, it's all very nuanced and there's no public information. We're trying to solve for that. We're trying to open this market up into transparency, especially for those small businesses. We are trying to give you insights so you know where you stand, and what you can do when you're ready to sell from your valuation standpoint. So we're trying to fix that. We're also trying to standardize this process because you'll hear a million different ways businesses are valued. It's very complicated, especially as a small business owner. It can be extremely overwhelming to figure out what your business is actually worth. And a lot of times, two different buyers can have two very, very different numbers. But I will say the more information that you have to back up your numbers, the more your story supports that, the better and more solid your valuation is, and the right buyer will 100% come along that understands that. Things that where it gets nuanced outside of just the numbers that I mentioned here is, overall risk profile. So is it an industry that might be, hopefully not, like AI might take over it, right? So that's what everybody's talking about right now. Customer concentration. Do you have one or two customers that are making up your full revenue amount? So that's a risk from a buyer standpoint, because what happens if that buyer or that customer goes away? There goes the majority of your revenue. So having a diversified customer concentration is also something the buyers look at. Well-documented processes, and there's so many cool tools out there to help you document. You basically just talk about what you're doing and it like documents it all for you. You can buy it for, $20. And there's some really cool ways to document, but like, how do you document everything? Obviously, your margins and how you price. The big one that we see, especially in the small business world, is owner dependency, and I'll talk a little bit about that throughout the time. But and I think, again, talking about the Gen Zs and the younger generations that are coming in, this is a really, really great opportunity to find somebody who wants to apprentice and wants to kind of basically take over your position and buy your relationships and your customers and your brand and really become the next you. But if you're thinking about like a larger business, owner dependency is something that can be a risk of like, okay, the owner walks away and they're taking all the customers, they're not staying, right? So it's a really interesting one, especially as you get into like the 10 to 20 million dollar businesses. But I think for the smaller businesses, that's not necessarily as important. Here's another example. So I talk about the strong structure and weak structure, everything that we just mentioned on the side. So a business, same exact revenue, same exact expenses, same exact cash flow. One with a strong structure, one with a weak structure can really make a difference in what they're valued as. And again, documenting these, making sure that you're prepared years in advance, like unfortunately, so many of the owners that we talk to are not necessarily, I mean, we talked to so many that are retiring, and that's awesome. A lot of them thought that, their daughter or son or cousin was going to take over the business, but unfortunately that just never transpired. And that, the younger generation went out and followed their own passion. So that's one group that we talk to, but there's another group of small business owners that we talk to that, they have a sick son and they need to take a step back to take care of their family, or God forbid you got divorced or something financial happens and you need to sell your business. You don't want to be in a position where you are not prepared for the inevitable. I feel like a lot of what you do every single day as a business owner is trying to prepare and get yourself ready for the inevitable. So one of the things is just making sure that you're documented and that you have those processes in place, that if hopefully nobody has to ever go through this, but you will be ready. And, the team here at Silver and we were working together to help you do that so that nothing's a surprise and that you don't have to do a fire sale and sell your business for practically nothing or not even sell at all, which just breaks our heart. We think that nobody should not sell for lack of either a good buyer out there or preparation. Things that do drive the multiples up that we will dive into a little bit more here. Obviously, clean financials, Cash flow, we talked about documented systems. We talked about all of these. Diversified customers, strong margins. So the less risk that your business has, and the value does go up. And just, no business is perfect, right? And we talk to small businesses every day, all day, and their books and their business all look different, and that is okay. Christina talked to an amazing owner, and all of his books were handwritten on a notepad, and that's okay. Start somewhere, right? Like you have to start somewhere and build into that. We all had to do what we had to do to get the business up and running. Totally okay. But start now. Like that's just start now, and you'll be in a better place than 95% of small businesses owners out there because you've thought even a year in advance. Okay, so you're looking to sell. You you say, okay, I'm either going to go on market publicly or on market privately. And we talk a little bit, I didn't really put that in the slide, but there's two ways to go to market. There's going on market where you basically say, I'm for sale. And you put together, we can help you do this for free as well, just like what's called a sim. So it's like basically a marketing piece about your business, and you all go publicly. You can also go like on market privately and work with partners like Silver and us, and to really help connect you with qualified buyers through our networks. Or you could stay off market and what we call make me an offer. So we believe that any business is for sale for the right price. That price might be $10 million. Dollars. Cool, whatever. Like there might be a right buyer out there that would be willing to pay for that. So either way, once you're connected with that buyer, you're going to go through something called due diligence. Depending on the size of your business, the due diligence will be pretty intense or not so regimented. Either way, you're going to go through it. You're going to be asked to put together things like your tax returns, your P&Ls, those numbers that we've been talking about throughout here. They're going to be looking at your operations and maybe coming in and working with you for a couple weeks. We've had that happen as well. So, when you're in due diligence, you're going to have to compile all of this data and um, and really show the buyer what your business is all about. And they're going to look for things like financial accuracy, tax compliance, obviously, any outstanding liabilities or disputes come up and, talk about that and talk about how those were resolved. Stability, the contracts that you have, your customer concentration, employee structure, your business best. So these are things that you will be asked to provide as part of this due diligence process once you've connected with qualified buyers. This will all be done under NDA, so we don't recommend sharing any data unless that buyer or group of buyers has signed an NDA, and just make sure that your information is private. Also, a lot of our small business owners are worried about their employees finding out because people don't necessarily love change. It could be scary. Hopefully, this next buyer will continue the legacy, but there's a lot of uncertainty there. So, understanding how you want to roll those out to your employees and making sure that it's confidential throughout this process until you have what's called an LOI or a purchase agreement in place. An LOI is called a letter of intent, and basically a buyer coming in and saying, I would like to purchase your business for this price, and we're going to go into due diligence. A purchase agreement is, okay, we've reviewed all your documents. Let's go ahead and move forward with this. Let's just, take it to the lawyer and go through the T's and C's. Deal terms also matter just as much as your valuation. So there's a lot of buyers, especially those that might not be as, have as much money. Oh, the one thing I just really, really wanted to point out is, especially for those of you who are looking to grow by purchasing a business, you don't need to be a millionaire to buy a business. You have a lot of options. And this is something I personally didn't know until becoming a founder of SMB. I thought, especially as a woman, I thought I had to either start a business, I had to grow it from scratch. You don't. There's a lot of different options, whether it's, if you're United States, there's SBA loans. You can get a group of friends and family together, but there's even more things called seller financing, which I'm going to talk about on the next slide. And there's other ways to make it a little bit more creative. Also, a lot of the businesses that we work with are under that $200 million or $200,000 revenue line. And so, or even less. And I mean, you could be buying that business and you could be getting an amazing customer base, an amazing brand, some good cash flow that you can grow and work that into your business that's already in existence. Okay, so down payment obviously matters. So depending on what the buyer has or what you have, you might have to be creative there of like what you can actually put down. Seller financing, I'm going to hold that because I have a really cool slide on it next. And earnouts is very similar to that. And then I mean, most of our buyers would love or expect that the owner stays on for I mean, 3 months is probably the least amount. Most of them are looking for a year or 2 years, depending on what your business is and how technical it is. So obviously, if you're thinking about retiring, think about um, that you'll probably be asked to stay on for a year or two, and you want to, right? You want to stay on, ensure the buyers are set up, ensure your business lasts. So just factor that into like your timing of everything as well. Okay, seller financing, really fun, fascinating. Um, you know, it widens your buyer pool. So there's only a certain amount of buyers out there that are going to be able to finance. And a lot of the financing, especially if they're getting a loan, is asking for a personal guarantee. So they have to put up their house or, I mean, a lot of times it's their house or something pretty substantial to be able to buy a business. So offering seller financing enables you to add a lot of amazing buyers into the mix that might not been able to afford it. However, not everybody wants to offer seller financing because it's not going to be like money up front. And that's totally okay as well. We deal with all situations here, but you could also ask for a higher price if you do offer seller financing. So, seller financing is basically you maintain part ownership in that business, and it depends on how it's worked out. But you basically obtain your final payments and installments from the cash flow that's coming in from the business. And so that could be a year, 2 years, 3 years that you're basically getting monthly payments or yearly payments, depending on how it's worked through based on the success of the business. There's also some terms and conditions in there that if the buyer comes in and destroys your business, you can come in and like take that business back over. So work with your lawyer on how to really make sure you're safe on seller financing. But I do think it opens the buyer pool. It adds a lot of advantages, tax advantages I talk about here, like it defers capital gains. That you're going to have to pay since you're paying it in installments. And it obviously helps with a smoother transition and make sure that you and the buyer are invested in the success of that business and the future of the business. It's a lot more, I mean, seller finance is fascinating. I could talk about it for a full hour. So, ChatGPT, Google it. I'm sure we have some tons of really great resources. We're working with Silver on some other resources on ways that we can help you understand seller financing. I feel like I've been in this now for 2 years just at SMB, and I'm just now finally understanding it. So I don't expect you to understand all of it and how it works today. That's okay. We'll work with you on it. Okay, so this is just another like how buyers think, especially if they're a first-time entrepreneur, but if they're a seasoned buyer, how do I get my money back? I mean, I think we all think about that when we're doing business every single day. So just think about that's how their mind is thinking. So like they're not necessarily thinking that you put blood, sweat, and tears into this business and missed your children's dance recital for this business. They're just thinking about that to start with, and you have to kind of bridge the gap and get them to where you are emotionally invested in this business because buyers want to be emotionally invested in your business. Okay, so we hear a lot of questions from buyers. I'm sure you're thinking about these, or from sellers, I mean, or just business owners, I would say. And these are the top questions that we hear. I'm sure you're thinking them right now. And Jason's going to come on and talk about how our integration helps with some of these. But obviously, I'm here to help with anything. I'm sure we'll share my email address, and we just love this partnership to really help you guys think about these things and prepare yourselves. So, what's my business worth? Okay, so there's obviously the cash value that we're going to show you here based off of high level numbers. Again, that's not your full business value. It's a lot about how we approach a buyer and tell your story, but that gives you an idea of like financially where you're at. And so we can work together to like figure out what levers you can pull to increase that valuation. It gives you a starting point. Like knowledge is power here on your side. And then, like I said, how do I increase value? When should I sell? I mean, the obvious answer to that is not when you're forced to sell, because nobody wants to sell when they're forced to sell. We want to help these small businesses 10 years before they're ready to sell, but really, if you can start 2 to 3 years ahead of when your ideal selling point is, then you're going to be leaps and bounds ahead of everybody else that's trying to transition their business. And we'd love to give people a competitive advantage. The big one that we hear is, am I too small? And if you talk to a broker, and we love advisors and wealth managers and all of them, some will tell you you're too small to sell. You're under 200,000 in revenue or 50,000 in revenue. I don't care. You could be under 5,000 in revenue. We've got businesses for sale that have less than 5,000 in revenue right now. But they've got a great infrastructure. They've got a great brand. I don't believe there's a business that's too small to sell. And I strongly believe that there's a next generation coming up here that want to start with something that's already in existence, and it's already thought through, and your business has customers or whatever. It gives them a head start. And so there is no business that's too small to sell, in my opinion. What if my books aren't perfect? Good. Like there's no books that are perfect, especially in the small business world. So don't worry. Like that is okay. Start somewhere, fix what you can, and then continue to grow and evolve it. You will learn, you will grow. We're working with a laundromat in Florida right now. I've never seen books more beautiful in my entire life, but that is so rare. And he had to start somewhere, right? So he started just taking pictures of his meters and tracking all expenses. Like just start somewhere, and then you're going to be so far ahead of everybody else. Um, and how do I buy safely? Again, like I really want to iterate, like one of the best ways to grow your business is by acquiring other businesses, whether they're businesses, if you're a landscaping business, buying other landscaping businesses, or if you're a flower shop, buying other flower shops, or hey, you're a flower shop, what else might be a good business to buy? Maybe an event planning business or a wedding catering business. There's so many other ways to think about how you want to expand your portfolio. And you can do that by purchasing already amazing businesses. And honestly, the buyers that buy businesses like them or in the same realm fare so much better with owners because they want but they know that they get it. They know that they understand the market. They know that they're not going to drive their business into the ground. They know that they can be successful in this. I promise, only a few more slides. So common owner mistakes that can destroy your value. So just keep an eye on these things. We see them in almost every instance. So again, don't worry, it's okay. But missing financials, obviously a big one. One of the big things that we see are personal and business expenses blended. So they're writing off their personal car or their mortgage on their home, or those types of expenses. Don't worry, everybody, like so many owners do it. It can be okay. But if you are doing that, just start to, bring those out of your financials and, make sure that you have a business account. I'm sure that you all do, but make sure you have a business account and it's just not very, very blended between personal and business. Unknown net profit. So know your numbers, and that's why we're talking to you guys today, is just to start to understand and know your numbers and understand what your bottom line is. If an owner comes in and they necessarily don't know their numbers, that's a big red flag for the buyer that maybe there's some things in there that are not going to be good for them if they've taken it over. We've talked about owner dependency. We talked about not documentation. and waiting too long, like just waiting till you have to sell and be prepared to sell. Um, you'll probably still sell, but you're not going to sell at an amount that you're super happy with. Um, so best time to start is today. Um, this is a lot on this slide. I didn't realize. So there's a lot that you can do today. One thing is, and I'll mention this here in a second, don't freak out. It's okay. Like start somewhere, like I mentioned. Start separating your financials if you are blending them between personal and financial. Review your last 12 months of profit. Make sure you're starting to know your numbers. There's things called, and I didn't go into too many technical details here, even though it might feel like I did, because it's very complex, but there's things called add backs. So they're like a buyer will look at it and say, okay, this is an expense that I'm not going to take on because I'm not going to move that over, whether it is a personal car or, it's insurance, but they have insurance through their husband or something like that. So they'll add that back and it'll increase your value. So there's a lot of levers that we can pull that way. Start documenting your processes, start documenting your employees and how your employees are set up and making sure that they're well trained, that there's redundancy or they can help take over in certain areas. Um, Obviously margins are important and revenue is important, but the owner dependency one is something of like, okay, does your business rely on you? Cool. That is very normal. Start to figure out ways that you can like take yourself out of it and how you can, whether it's through hiring or even through AI or documentation of like, how can you remove yourself as the variable as much as you possibly can? It might not be fully possible, and that's okay. But how can you start to think about how it doesn't need to rely on me? And that, I mean, you probably want to go on vacation sometime too, so that's okay. Like, start thinking about that now. If you want to buy, which I hope, a lot of you are looking at buying through acquisition, the reverse is also true. Like make sure that you're looking at the cash flow, you're looking at the risk associated with that business, looking at customer concentration and your payback timeline. Make sure you're looking at all of these things of the business that you're evaluating to make sure that you are buying a business that you're comfortable with. Um, And yeah, this is just like, can the business run without me? Are the books clean? Like, ask yourself these questions. Ask them quarterly, ask them monthly, ask them to yourself to make sure that you are thinking about not just the day-to-day operations of your business, which I know probably takes up 99.9% of your brain space, but really where do you want this business to go? Because I think most businesses don't want it to just shut down. And and it can continue on after you're no longer running it. So the ultimate goal, whether you're looking to buy or sell, is know your numbers. It gives you options. And don't freak out. It's okay. It'll all work out. Just take one step at a time. I know I can personally get kind of like paralyzed if I have too many things to do at once. Just start one thing at a time and work with awesome partners that we have here to figure out, do I want to grow? Do I want to like step back and just let the business run and like generate the revenue so the multiplier grows? Do I want to acquire? Do I want to partner with other cool people to, um, you know, solidify the business value, so that valuation, or do I want to sell now? There's definitely some industries right now that if you've got to sell a business that are super hot, that people are buying at multipliers that might not be in 2, 3 years. So staying on top of that, like the trends, and selling at the right time is also something interesting. Everybody's looking for like a laundromat right now or car wash or HVAC business. And I'm just talking about the Main Street businesses. There's tons of like online businesses that people are interested in too. I think one of the ones that we're working with a lot now are like educational businesses in one way or another. The tutoring, those types of businesses are hiring at a much higher multiple now that maybe in 2, 3 years might not be. So think about timing too, and like what's happening in the environment that might drive valuation up or down. So I know we've got a quick demo here of how one step you can take today. And I also know that we're working with Silver to create some I'm blanking of what it's called now, but different like educational sessions.
Campaign.
Campaigns, thank you.
Campaigns.
We're working on creating some campaigns that will walk you through some of these steps in like practical ways. I know we covered a lot. There's still a lot more to cover. So, looking forward to giving you guys a lot more great content and obviously always here to answer any questions and help you think about what's right for you.